Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, New Iron Man, written by Wolf Sama. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin prologue. A suit to start it all. We see a small bruised 5-year-old Izuku, watching heroes on the TV, his eyes shines in wonder seeing them save people, seeing people actually be happy to see them. Izuku turned around and looked at her mother, who had a scared look. Over what Izuku asked Izuku, "Mom, can I be a hero even though I'm quirkless?" Inko, "I'm sorry Izuku. But you are quirkless, you can't be a hero." Years later Izuku opened his eyes from that recurring dream. He was awakened by the sound of his alarm clock. Izuku's phone. "You are my way of life, the only way I know, you are my way of life, I'll never let you go." Izuku grabbed his phone and turned off his phone. He sat up straight in his bed, looking at his room. The place was filled with different weights, blueprints, gears, you name it. Izuku took a small breath, as he looked at the calendar. Izuku, last day of school. "Let's do this," Izuku said softly to himself. As he got dressed for a run and went to the living room, he froze for a second seeing his mother there. Inko froze just as Izuku did, seeing him up before she could leave. "Inko, my boss called me in early." Izuku didn't respond back, he just put on that fake smile that his mother knew was fake and walked past her. Izuku started making an all-natural protein shake. Inko stood there looking at her son. She wanted to talk to, ask how was school, what's he's gonna do today, anything. "Izuku, I'll be home late," Izuku simply said, as he grabbed his shake and walked past Inko. He reached her hand out to stop him, but stopped herself at the last minute, and pulled her hand back. Just as she got the courage to open her mouth, she heard the door closing. Inko stood there alone, with a sad sigh. Inko, have a nice day with Izuku. After his run Izuku made it to his safe space, the place where he can go and ignore the world. The junkyard. He walked to the gate, passing the guard a crisp $20 bill to let him pass. They didn't say anything to each other. As he opened the gate, Izuku walked inside, and went to his makeshift laboratory. He looks at his watch. "Izuku, okay. I've got 2 hours of work before I have to go to the cesspool that dares call itself a school," Izuku thought as he went to work. Dismantling old cars, melting their metal, and creating something new from them. Izuku was building something, he was building a dream. And he'll be mad if he lets anyone wake him up from it. Before he realized it, the 2 hours flew by. Izuku clicked his tongue and looked at his project. "Izuku, why does time fly here, but in that hell hole it feels like an eternity." Izuku muttered to himself, as he took a quick shower in the emergency shower he built, to clean all the grease and dirty he had on his body. After that he put on his school clothes and his backpack and he was off. Honestly, Izuku keeps more of his stuff here than he does in his mother's house. Scene change. Izuku, yup, a literal eternity, Izuku thought to himself, as he was reading an old book about robotics. Izuku was seated in the corner at the back of the class, with a smile on his face. He wasn't paying attention to what the teacher was spewing, more to the point, he didn't care. Heck, he didn't even remember his teacher's name. "Teacher, alright, who here is gonna be trying out to make it to UA?" The teacher said in an excited tone. Every single person raised their hands, and started acting up excited. All but Izuku, who kept his gaze on his book. The teacher noticed this, and threw a piece of chalk to him, a piece that Izuku caught without problem. "Teacher, so glad to have your attention midoriya. Now tell me, are you going to apply to UA?" "Izuku, does UA have an engineering program?" Izuku asked, not taking his eyes off his book. Everyone was snickering at the notion of Izuku midoriya, the quirkless of their class, making it to UA. The teacher looked completely flabbergasted. "Teacher, don't know Izuku, then I can't answer," Izuku said, closing the book he was reading, and giving his teacher his full attention, one last time before he leaves and forgets him 5 seconds after leaving the building. The teacher trembled a little. Since Izuku had that ever-present smile on his face. "Izuku, since I'm going to whoever has the best engineering program in Japan, if it's UA then I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Is there anything else? Or can I go back to my book, and minding my own business?" Izuku asked, with absolutely no emotion behind his voice, which just made his smile all the more creepy. just as the teacher was about to speak, before the rapid dog decided to speak Bakugo, please all the people here are extra. I'm the only one making it to UA, so quit trying to act like you don't care Deku. Izuku, you heard him Deku, stop trying. Now as for me, Izuku Midoriya. I'm not trying to do anything Izuku said, flipping the page of his book, not giving the rabies-infected dog to get to him, which just said Bakugo off more Bakugo, you say that, but I know your secret, you want to come to UA to become a pro hero. Izuku, Bakugo. I told you that, when I was 4 years old. You don't think that in that time, I've matured and accepted my limitations. Oh wait. You would have no idea about that, since you decided that you couldn't spend time with a quirkless. Izuku said, with a hint of anger in his voice. Bakugo slammed his fist on the table, furious that Izuku implied they were once friends. But the teacher took control of the situation. Teacher, alright, both of you calm down. It's only 20 minutes till the bell ring, I doubt both of you want to spend your last day of the school in detention. Izuku, you mean my last day, since everyone here knows you have such a HRD on for Bakugo, that you let him get away with murder. Izuku said, flipping to another page. He didn't finish reading the page he was on, he did it to add dramatic effect to what he just said, and seeing as people gasped at his audacity. It was more than worth it after detention. Izuku, totally worth it. Izuku said to himself, putting his headphones in, and walking out of his old school through the back. Being that he knows the blonde dog is waiting for him at the entrance, he was so predictable. As soon as the music started Izuku's headphones, Honey came in and she caught me red-handed creeping with the girl next door. Picture this, we were both butt naked. Izuku started to jog again. He still had a lot to do before the day he'll prove everyone wrong. Izuku's headphones, banging on the bathroom floor. How could I forget that I had given her an extra key all this time she was standing there? She never took her eyes off me. Scene change. It was the dark of night, and Izuku had a welding mask on. He was adding the finishing touches to his project. He was tired. But there was something fueling him to keep going. Flashback. We see a little Izuku on the ground crying, as Bakugo and other rats decided it would be fun to use Izuku as target practice. Bakugo, look at the loser, he wants to become a hero. Izuku, too, will become a hero. Izuku said, sniffling. Bakugo frowned and used his quirk against Izuku again, causing the boy more pain. Bakugo, don't be stupid. A quirkless can't be a hero. Back to the present. Izuku poured the melted car metal into the mold, he almost burned himself. But he ignored it and kept working, he couldn't stop. Not now. Not yet. Back to the past. We see Izuku in the quirk doctor's office, waiting excited. Soon he was either gonna have telekinesis like his mother, or fire like his father. Inko, are you excited, honey? Izuku, yeah. After I get my power I'll become the greatest hero ever. Izuku said, jumping up and down with excitement. Inko chuckled softly as they waited a bit longer. Soon enough the doctor came in, a bald Eggman-looking guy. He sat down on his chair, looking at his file, and then looking at Izuku and Inko. Doctor, look, I'm gonna be brutally honest. Izuku Midoriya was born quirkless. He didn't inherit either of your or your husband's quirks or develop an amalgam of your powers. Inko, oh god. Inko whispered softly. Izuku was looking at the doctor shocked, he felt as if he was pistoled whipped. He still held on to some desperate hope, that only a child that age could have. Izuku, but can I still be a hero? Even quirkless? Doctor, sorry kid. But a quirkless can't be a hero. Back to the present. Izuku was now working on the wires of his inventions. Making sure it wouldn't blow up, and take his arm with it. He couldn't afford any failures for the exam. Back to the past. We see Izuku in his room, he was watching a live interview of his favorite hero All Might. Waiting nervously for his question to be picked. Mitch, alright. Here's one from, Green Boy All Might fan number 1. All Might, man, that name rolls of the tongue. All Might said with a chuckle. The audience joined him in the laugh, since like the sheeps they were, if their god did something then it must be gospel. Izuku had his eyes glued to the screen, since that was his question. Mitch, alright, it says here, hi All Might, I'm your biggest fan, I have a huge collection of your merch, but that's not what I wanted to say, I'm just nervous. My question is, my friend is quirkless. And he wants to be a hero. Can a quirkless be a hero? Since you always say that anyone can be a hero, Mitch finished. He looked as if he ate sour grapes, and he wasn't the only one. All Might sighed, and leaned forward on his chair. All Might, I did say that. But your friend is thinking of being a hero like me. What I was referring to that is that everyone can be a hero, by simply helping others, like helping an old lady cross the streets. But a hero like me. Tell your friend that I'm sorry if I gave him false hope. But a quirkless can't be a hero. Izuku turned off the TV, and looked down. His hands were trembling, not with sadness mind you, but with anger. He screamed, and started destroying anything All Might in his room. He looked at the huge All Might poster, that was even framed. His breathing became more and more angry till he pushed it out of the wall, breaking the glass back to the present. Izuku, can't. I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna show them all, what the human spirit can do. Izuku yelled, to keep himself motivated, as he started working on the bombs. This was gonna be a long night for the boy with Inko. We see her eating alone in the kitchen table. She looked in front of her, where Izuku's food was getting cold. She sighed sadly, and looked back at her own food. She knew it was a foolish idea. Izuku hasn't eaten with her in years. Inko, remember, he said he was gonna be late. We'll eat together another time. Inko lied to herself, to make herself feel better. I didn't really work, since he didn't even believe it herself. So she just ate her meal alone. Scene change. The morning of the UA exam. We see Izuku finishing his jog. He walked to the entrance of the junkyard, and much to the guard's surprise, the boy smiled and waved at him. Izuku, yo, Jim, how you doing? Izuku said, smiling to the guard of the junkyard. Jim looked confused, since it's not often that they talk. Jim, as good as I can be, I suppose. Is something the matter? You don't normally talk to me. Izuku, just excited. Today's the big day, Izuku said with a smirk. A tired smirk with the bags under his eyes. But a smirk nonetheless. Jim, and what day would that be? Izuku, it's entrance exam. I gotta show them something that'll really impress. Wanna come see it? Jim, sure, might as well see what you've been doing with the junk cars that are around here, Jim said as he followed Izuku to his little laboratory. Izuku turned on the light, and both saw Izuku's invention, the stuff he's been working on, for so long. Izuku, okay, after months it's finally done. Jim, and what in Sam Hill am I looking at? Jim asked, looking at the monstrosity in front of him. Izuku ignored him again first, as he walked up to his invention and put it on. Izuku, my ticket into UA Chapter 1 entrance exam. The writing part. We see Izuku on the train. He could feel everybody's eyes on him, since well, he was wearing a huge metal suit. He looked up at everyone, and gave a nervous chuckle, playing with his fingers. Izuku, I'm going to an anime convention. I'm a mecha. Izuku said, that seemed to satisfy a lot of them, and they went back into minding their business. Izuku gave a small sigh in relief, and remember his self-help tapes. Izuku, people will only respect you if you respect yourself. If you respect yourself, you have nothing to be nervous about. Izuku remained himself over and over, trying to calm down over what he was doing. Today was his big day. His make or break moment, and he's not gonna let nervousness get in his way. Meanwhile, with Nizu, we see him and the other teachers looking over all the applicants for the hero program. When Nizu spotted Aizawa throwing one out. Nizu, what was the problem with that one? Aizawa, just another quirkless, wanting to become a hero. Aizawa simply said, causing some to chuckle at the ridiculous notion. Nizu wasn't one of them. He got off his chair and grabbed the file. Nizu, Izuku midoriya, rather high grades, decent dream. Aizawa, did you read further along after he admitted he was quirkless? Aizawa, I did not, since it's the same thing every time. I know I don't have a quirk, but I'm still gonna give it my all, or some CRP like that. Aizawa said with a sigh. Don't misunderstand him. Aizawa isn't a racist against quirkless, it's simply that he's seen this game over and over and over again, so he's tired of seeing those kids getting hurt, just for daring to dream for more. Nizu just nodded, and gave Aizawa back the file. Aizawa took it and looked at Nizu with a raised eyebrow. Aizawa, you're kidding. Nizu, I am not. Let's give this boy a fair shake. I've read what he has to offer and I'm intrigued. Now go on, put it with the rest, since if you don't I'll have to pull rank, and you know how much I hate to do that. Nizu said with a cryptic smile. Izuku looked at it to see what he meant, and he rolled his eyes. Since Nizu ripped that part out, he wanted it to be a surprise for all. He placed the file with the rest of the contested and went back to work. Nizu looked at the piece of paper in his hands. Paper, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna give it my all. Since I know that won't be enough, all that'll get me is pity. No. I have something that will actually make up for my disability. A suit. A robotic suit I made by myself. All I ask is for a chance to prove myself. Nizu, you got your chance, Mr. Midoriya. Let's hope you don't let it go through your fingers. Back to Izuku. We see Izuku at the entrance of UA. He stopped walking and just looked at the entrance for a minute. After so long, it was finally time to prove himself. He was about to keep walking when he heard something. He looked down and saw a pink-haired girl looking at his suit. Izuku, can I help you? Mei, you wired this wrong. Mei said simply. Izuku looked offended, and was about to tell her to PSS off, but in a matter of seconds, Mei took out a panel and started to fix what she saw wrong. Izuku, hey. What do you think you're doing? Mei, fixing the error. Mei simply said, not looking at Izuku. Izuku looked annoyed and was about to leave his suit, and he saw what Mei was fixing. He cursed under his breath, since sure enough the wires were placed wrong. If Izuku were to use the super strength of his suit, it would explode in his hand. It took Mei 5 minutes to fix what Izuku spent hours making. She put the panel back into place and walked away without a word. Izuku, wait. Izuku said, walking up to her. Mei turned around and looked at him. Izuku took a breath. He wasn't nervous that a girl was looking at him, of course not. That would be ridiculous. It's probably what he ate last night. Yeah, that's it. Izuku, tea. Thank you, for fixing that, Mei, okay. Apart from that, you did a good job with this baby. Well, mostly. I can see other parts where you did a not so good job, but Dad tells me to leave things alone, unless people ask for my help. You didn't ask for my help, so I'm supposed to say sorry. I'm sorry. Mei said. Her tone went from genuine excitement talking about mechanics, to almost uninterested when it came to apologizing. Izuku nodded, and looked at the entrance of UA. Then back at Mei, who was looking at him confused, since no one ever talks to her. She wasn't used to it. By now the person who would talk to her would just walk away. Izuku, would those part affect me in the hero exam? Mei, it's mostly cosmetic. If they were to punch you in the chest, the metal could pierce your chest. Also the back is your weakest point, seeing as it has so many openings for your opponent to attack your skin. Mei went on describing the flaws in Izuku's design, and much to her pleasure, this robot boy listened to her, but more than that, he countered her arguments. By the end there, she was smiling like she does when one of her babies doesn't explode. Mei, note to self, tell Mrs. Sarah that I talked to somebody today. Mei thought to herself, feeling happy, which was strange for her since she wasn't building one of her babies. Both of them didn't notice a brown-haired girl walk past them. No one could know, but this little interaction changed the course of Izuku's destiny, romantically at least. After another 5 minutes of talking about mechanics, Izuku looked at the time. Izuku, we should go. The exams are gonna start soon. Are you here for the hero exam? Mei, no. I'm here for the support course. Goodbye, robot boy, Mei said, walking away. Izuku watched her leave and then went to his exams. Though he was a little disappointed in himself, for not asking for a name, the written portion of the exam, the writing portion, was a breeze for him. Since you don't build a fully functional robot suit, without knowing a thing or two about mathematics, and other subjects. So he saw himself getting top marks, beating a girl with the last name of Yaoyorozu. Midnight, Miss Yaoyorozu, I recounted now 3 times. You've got second place, Momo, but that cannot be possible. Please at least give me my test, and the test of the person who got number 1. I need to see where I went wrong. Momo said desperately. She still couldn't fully accept that someone was able to beat her in a battle of intelligence. She needed to see how, or else she might go mad. Midnight, that's not allowed. Please head to the next part of the exam Izuku, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, or for others, Izuku thought to himself, again repeating what he heard in those self-help tapes. So with a nervous step, he walked forward. Izuku, excuse me. Midnight, yes. Midnight asked with a sigh at the end. It was bad enough with one applicant, she hopes that this one doesn't also want to peek. Izuku, sorry to interrupt. But. Both of them found this robotic boy weird, when he stopped talking and started doing some breathing exercises. Izuku, I'm the boy who scored number 1, if I allow her to look at my test. Would that be okay? Momo, yes. Will it? Momo said with a bright smile, looking at the teacher. Midnight looked at the two, and she decided that she didn't want to keep dealing with this. Midnight, fine. But make it quick, the next group of contestants will be here in 10 minutes. Momo, yes. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for being a bother, both of you. It's just that Momo tried to explain. But Izuku raised his hand, and from the look on the eye holes in his suit, the boy looked like he was smiling. Izuku, I get it, how can you improve, if you don't even know where you went wrong, right? Momo, yes. Yes. You get it. Oh dear, where are my manners? I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. Momo said nervously, with a quick bow. Izuku did the same thing, though his was much slower seeing as he was in a robot suit. Izuku midoriya, a pleasure. But please just call me Izuku. Momo, nice to meet you. Izuku, don't suppose that I can see your face? Momo asked with a bit of hope in her tone, but Izuku just shook her head and started walking away. Izuku, maybe one day. But for now, I would rather keep that a secret. So for now, goodbye. 10 minutes later, with the other contestants, Bakugo slammed his fist on the table, glaring at the name on the scoreboard. Bakugo, what the F is that Deku doing here? With Izuku, we see Izuku sitting down, waiting for the other groups to arrive. He did get some side-eye from some people. But Izuku ignored them. With Nizu, we see him watching the student that intrigued him so much, sitting waiting for the second part of the test. Aizawa and the other heroes' teachers were with him, with exception of Mike and Midnight. Much to Aizawa's enjoyment, since it meant he could have a few minutes of silence. Aizawa looked at the robot walking with the other students, and then at Nizu, who was smiling. Aizawa, that's Midoriya, isn't it? Nizu, indeed. You must admit that you have to be intrigued by the boy. Someone who spends so long to build himself a suit. Surely has the drive to make it in the hero course, Nizu said excitedly. In his eyes, Izuku is the diamond he's been waiting for decades. Finally a chance to show the world that anyone can truly be a hero. Aizawa just gave a short grunt as a response. Aizawa, maybe. Let's see how he does first. Toshinori, who are you talking about? Toshinori asked with a kind smile, but a bit nervous, seeing as this was his first official day as a teacher, and he wants to make a good impression. Aizawa and Nizu spared him a glance, and then looked back at the robot boy. Nizu, this boy, that has the potential to be my personal student. Ha 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 ha. Teachers, creepy, all the teachers thought, they know it's horrible to think it. But they kinda wish that Izuku doesn't make it, not for any ill will towards the boy, they just didn't want Nizu to have a successor. Toshinori looked at the boy in question, confused at what he was wearing. Toshinori, why does he have a robot suit? Nizu, he's quirkless. He built himself by his word, a robot suit. That gives him super strength, amongst other things, he added to it. Nizu said, more and more intrigued with the boy, how he built it at such a young age, and by the look of the machine, at such a cheap price. Toshinori, quirkless. Nizu, sir. Nizu, before you speak. Toshinori. Nizu said, since he knew where the line of thinking the number one hero was going. Nizu wasn't gonna allow him to ruin this for Nizu. Nizu, know that you are a completely new teacher, and at the bottom of the food chain. Your opinion is less than worthless to me. Toshinori noted. Toshinori said and kept quiet, not wanting to ruffle any feathers so soon. So he concentrated on the applicant that was his successor for OFA Chapter 2, the entrance exam, the testing part. It was time for the second part of the exam, the practical part. He was listening to the teacher explain the rules he already memorized by heart at this point, when some guy with blue hair stood up with his arm raised. Ida, excuse me, but in the packet, there are listed 4 types of robot villain, but you have only stated 3, is this a misprint? Because if so, that would highly disgrace you, and you. Ida said, pointing at Izuku, who unlike Ida was actually paying attention to the teacher. Izuku moved his head to look at the angry, Sonic, not Sonic, but Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff. Ida, what in God's name are you wearing? If you can't take this seriously, you better leave. Izuku, first of all, you, entitled, born with a silver spoon on your mouth, blue Power Ranger looking mother effer. Izuku said with a growl at the end and loud enough in his tone, so everyone could hear it. It's a good thing that he installed a voice scrambler so Bakugo, who was next to him, didn't realize it was him. Izuku kept his gaze on the blue hair boy. Izuku, if you would have actually read the packet, instead of skimming it trying to find an error to make yourself look good, you would have known that the final robot is worth 0 points. It's only there to see what we will do when faced with something stronger than what we can handle, Izuku said in an angry tone. Ida looked offended, but the teacher coughed to get everyone's attention. Mike, thank you listener. # you are completely correct, the magic of actually reading is amazing, don't you think so? Listener 7111, the teacher said, making Ida feel embarrassed, and sat down, keeping quiet for the rest of the explanation. After that they got on a bus that'll take them to the fake city. Izuku was sitting at the back when someone came up to him. Momo, hello. Mind if I sit next to you? You're kinda the closest thing to someone I know in this bus. Izuku, sure, but it'll be a tight fit, Izuku said, moving to the side. Momo sat down rather comfortably and gave Izuku a kind smile, that Izuku reciprocated, although Momo couldn't tell. Momo, I would say rather cozy. So, if you don't mind just rudeness. Why the suit? Izuku, The best way I can explain it, is that my ability isn't really suited for fighting robots, so I would fail the practical exams if I didn't think outside the box, Izuku said in half-truths, but Momo accepted that and kept looking at the suit. And the more she looked at it, the more she didn't like it. Not for any bad reason, it wasn't symmetrical for her liking. Izuku, okay. Moment of truth in just a few minutes. You're fine, you've done everything right. You'll make it, just remember to breathe. Scene change, we see him in the fake city, waiting for the gates to open with everyone else. Everything he's worked so hard for, every time he broke a bone, burned a part of his skin. Having things explode on him, again and again, and again. It all led up to this singular moment. He can't fail, he simply can't. Izuku, Siri, status. Siri, systems operating at 100% battery, has 89% battery left. Izuku listened to the robot voice. He didn't make a robotic assistant, he didn't have the money or the resources for that. He simply hooked up an old iPhone he found in the junkyard to the suit. The gate started to open, and Izuku didn't wait a single second. He ran inside and destroyed the first robot he saw. He heard the teacher in the background, but he didn't pay it much mind, as he went to look for the next one. All Might's successor. POV Mike, well. What are you waiting for? In real life there is no countdown. That robot boy already destroyed a 3-pointer. Better make that too. Hearing that made everybody run inside, like cattle to the slaughter. They were pushing other students around, just to get inside faster. I used OFA to jump over them to find a robot. I saw the robot boy punching a 2-pointer and concentrated on finding my own patch to destroy before my time was up. Back to Izuku. Izuku raised his arms and activated his flamethrowers, with fire so concentrated and hot that it burned the robot's face and operating system. Siri, warning, gas for the flamethrowers, at 20%. Izuku, DMN already. Hey Siri. Add to my note, that I need to make the flamethrowers conserve more gas. Izuku said, running off, for his next target. He ran fast and blocked a 3-pointer shooting other contestants. Izuku, don't stand there, run. Student, thanks man. Izuku heard the student say, as they ran off to take care of a 1-pointer, or maybe a 2-pointer if they're lucky. Izuku walked up to the shooting 3-pointer, his armor resisting the bullets without difficulty. He grabbed the robot's face and squashed it. Siri, note added. Anything else I can help you with? Izuku, battery life Izuku asked as he shakes his robot hands to get out some of the oil the head squeezed out. Siri, battery at 72%. Izuku, okay. Izuku said, as he ran to another target with the teacher's Nizu, for a quirkless he's doing marvelous work. What's his score? Aizawa, currently number 3 behind Momo Yaoyorozu and Bakugo Katsuki. I'll admit he's not awful. He's even helping other applicants. Aizawa grumbled as they watched the match, and made decisions on who's in and who's out. All Might was frowning, he should be looking at his successor. But his eyes fixated on the robotic boy. All Might, he could still hurt himself. What will he do when the battery on that thing runs out? Nizu, nobody cares for your opinion. Toshinori. So shut it, I doubt his battery will run out by the time this test is over. Nizu said without even looking at Toshinori. Toshinori for his part, just bit down on his lip. He couldn't help but feel inadequate seeing this boy do something he couldn't. Nizu, I mean, just look at him. He's able to defeat 3-pointer Venators, without much trouble. How? How did he build a suit that could do that? Oh, the curiosity is killing me. Ha 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 ha. Nizu said while laughing, causing everyone to feel fear for their evil god Nizu. They watched the show for another 10 minutes till it was time. Nizu, power loader. It's time for the big boy to make his presence known. PL, yes sir. PL said as he pressed a button. The fun was about to really begin for Nizu with Izuku. Siri, warning, battery at 32%. Izuku, already. DMN. This suit really SCKED out car batteries like it's water. Siri, go to power saver mode. Izuku commanded, as he went instead to deal with 1-pointer for the remainder of the test. That was his plan, until he stumbled. The ground started to shake. The sun started to be blocked. The contestants looked up, and saw the giant robot otherwise known as the 0-pointer or the executor Izuku, run its Godzilla. It looks like Godzilla. But due to international copyright laws, it's not. Izuku was surprised, and saw a boy with purple hair, close to him pointing at the 0-pointer. Izuku, still we should run like it is Godzilla. Purple hair boy, but it isn't the purple hair boy added. Both looked at each other and laughed. Izuku, PFFF, Izuku midoriya, call me Izuku. Glad to see an Austin Powers fan. Shinso, Hitoshi Shinso, just call me Shinso. But seriously, we should run. Shinso said, looking around them, as other contestants were running away scared of the huge robot. Izuku nodded calmly. Izuku, oh yeah, definitely, help. My foot is stuck. Both of them looked and saw a brown hair stuck, and the 0-pointer was walking towards her. Both of them didn't wait and ran to help Izuku. Siri, turn off the power saver, all power on the arm. Siri, confirmed. Shinso heard from behind him, but didn't have time to question, as he made it to the girl first, and he started to take the debris out of her foot. The sun was blocked by them. They looked up and the foot was about to squash them. Shinso got on top of the girl to protect her, but the pain never came. They looked up again, and saw the robot boy with his arm raised, holding the foot, stopping it from squashing them. Izuku grunted as the suit started to overheat and fast. Izuku, don't just stand there. Hurry up. Shinso, right. Shinso said, as he continued taking the debris off the girl. Once he did, the girl tried to run, but fell. She twisted her ankle. Shinso, here. Let me help you. Siri, warning, warning, battery power dropping rapidly. They all heard. Izuku clicked his tongue, and tried to find a solution. Shinso grabbed the girl like a princess and ran out of the way with the teacher's. Toshinori, sir. The robot is malfunctioning. That boy is gonna get hurt. Nizu, no one is to move. If he's to become a student with his disability, he'll need to think outside the box. I want to see what he does. With Izuku. Siri, warning, battery at 15%, 14%, 13%. Izuku, Siri, all power on the legs. Izuku said, as Siri transferred the energy. Izuku started to buckle under the weight. When he heard the ding that it was done, he gave a scream and jumped with every speck of energy the car batteries had left. It wasn't enough to destroy the robot obviously, but it was enough for Izuku to make the machine fall on his back. The robot moved side to side, but like a turtle, he couldn't flip itself back up. Izuku took a huge breath of relief. Siri, warning, battery at 0% powering down. Izuku heard, and felt the machine become 3 times as heavy. Izuku grunted and slowly moved by himself. Izuku, note to self. Make Mark II a lot lighter. Shinso, hey Izuku, you good? Izuku heard. Izuku walked slowly to the source of the sound, and half raised the arm with a soft chuckle. Izuku, I'm alive. So no. Shinso, honestly mood. Shinso said with a chuckle, as he walked to Izuku to meet him halfway. Ochako looked between the two. Who saved her? Ochako, thank you for saving me. Both of you. Izuku, my pleasure. Izuku, midoriya, call me Izuku. Izuku said with a small wave. Shinso nodded and looked at the brown-haired girl. Shinso, Hitoshi Shinso. Just call me Shinso. Ochako, Uraraka. Ochako. Call me Ochako. Ochako said with a smile that Shinso found cute. It reminded him of a cat smile. Announcement, the test is over. Those who are injured report to the recovery girl. Shinso, I believe that's you. I'll take you there. Shinso said with a nod to himself. Ochako nodded in appreciation, and then looked at Izuku. Ochako, thank you. Midoriya, are you injured? Izuku, nothing, nah, just a bit hot. I'll see you too, if we all make it to UA. If not, then good afternoon, good evening and good night. Izuku said as he started to walk away to the exit. He did his best, he just hoped it was enough with the teachers. Nizu, ha 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 ha. Tashinori, is this normal? Tashinori asked, looking at Nizu. He looked like he was having a whole episode, looking like the Joker with how hard he was laughing. Aizawa, only when he gets excited about something. So very rare. Nizu, my oh my, this boy has so much potential. I must speak with him. Aizawa, I'll be the one to deliver the letter personally. Nizu said, walking away to his office. He has so much to do. In just a few days, Aizawa looked at his boss. Leave. Aizawa, so, you're gonna put him in the hero course, huh? Nizu, oh heavens no. He'll be going to the support course. Chapter 3, 2 step forwards, 1 step back. It's been 2 weeks since the entrance exams, and Izuku was a nervous wreck. He kept waiting and waiting for the letter to come. With Izuku we see Izuku in his version of lifting weights, which was lifting heavy parts of cars, that he welded together. With trembling hands he placed the weights back on its place and sat down with a sigh. He moved his bandaged left arm around a bit. Izuku did in fact hurt himself. He sprained his left arm, and had first-degree burns around his body, but apart from that, he was completely fine. Grabbing a small towel with his right hand, and cleaned the sweat of his face. Izuku, okay. Okay. It's fine, you're totally fine, the card should arrive soon. For now I need to keep fixing the Mark I, and the errors that Pinkhead saw. Izuku muttered to himself, as he walked into his workshop. To his surprise he wasn't alone. There sitting looking at his blueprints was a white rat, that Izuku knew who it was, and he was Godsmack. Izuku, N. Nizu. Sir W. What are you doing here? Nizu, HM. Oh. Well, I went to your house, but you weren't there. So I came here, Nizu said, turning around and giving Izuku a smile. Izuku took a few calming breaths and he centered himself. Izuku, I see. I want to know how you know of this place, but part of me doesn't. Nizu, a wise choice to listen to the part that doesn't. Now as for the reason I'm here. I'm sure you know why that is, Nizu said with a calm smile, looking around. This boy has clearly been many hours, days, months, heck years of his life in this place. It just had that feel about it. Izuku nodded, feeling a bit nervous. Izuku, why? Yes. To tell me if I made it or not. But seeing as you're here in person, that has to be a good sign, right? Nizu, that depends entirely on you. But before that, tell me. How did you come about this suit? I know you built it with car parts, but what inspired it? Nizu asked. Izuku looked around and found what he was looking for. He took out an ancient newspaper, and gave it to Nizu. it had a report of a man named Ironman Izuku, sir. Do you know of a hero named Ironman? Nizu, can't say I do. Is he some new hero? But by the look of this paper, I know that guess is wrong. Nizu said, reading the newspaper, or trying to. The words were almost unintelligible. Izuku, old hero. A 3,000 years old hero. Before quirks officially appeared. Back when mutants like the bunny hero Mirko would have been discriminated against. Back when being quirkless wasn't treated as a medical disability. He was a completely quirkless person. But a once-in-a-lifetime genius, since he built himself suits like mine, to save people. That, sir, is my inspiration, to be the new Iron Man. Nizu, I see. So you are walking in the footsteps of giants, a forgotten giant. But a giant all the same. Nizu said, understanding this boy a little better. Izuku rubbed the back of his head and he nodded with a bit of a nervous chuckle. Izuku, yes sir. There's more to it than that. But I would rather keep that to myself. Nizu, I can respect that. But let me say I've done some research on you, and I'm quite impressed. Nizu said, and he could tell that those simple words affected Izuku so much. But Izuku kept his feelings hidden, and just gave a short nod. Izuku, thank you sir. Nizu, a quirkless boy. Who for all his life he was told he couldn't be a hero. And yet here you stand, with proof of concept that it is possible. Nizu said, looking at the machine that Izuku built. It was dismantled and being fixed, but it was there. Izuku shared Nizu's gaze, looking at his life work. Izuku, yes sir. Nobody believed me. Not the doctors, not my teachers, not my auntie or uncle, not even. Izuku said, his tone rising, he almost yelled. But he composed himself and took a few calming breaths, speaking in a much calmer tone, but still a bit of a bite in the back of his tone. Izuku, not even my mother. Nizu, my condolences. It couldn't have been easy. Nizu said, in a tone that just told Izuku that Nizu has been there. He can only imagine. But his curiosity for his future overtook everything else. Izuku, but sir, answer me. Was my proof of concept successful? Nizu, mostly. Tell me, what fuels this Mark 1? Nizu asked. Izuku pointed to the power source, for car batteries all connected together, to make some sort of Frankensteinian monstrosity, that somehow worked. Izuku, old car battery parts sir. Nizu, I imagine that they don't last long, do they? Nizu asked, walking up to the batteries, and inspecting them. That's when Izuku's smile faltered a little, as he rubbed the back of his neck. Izuku, no sir. They didn't even last an hour of intense usage. Nizu, and now you see the pickle I'm in. Since in theory your suit works. But in practice, what kind of hero can only last less than an hour? Nizu asked. Izuku nodded in agreement, but he didn't give up. He went to his work table and took out a journal, giving it to Nizu. He looked at it, and inside of it were different theories on how to power the suit. Izuku, but as I said, it's a proof of concept. I'm currently working on a different form of energy for the suit. Though admittedly it's only in the thinking stage. Nizu, very true. But until then I cannot allow you to enter the hero course. Nizu asked, and turned around looking at Izuku with a smile that gave something that Izuku hasn't seen anyone give him, except for the mirror. Hope. Izuku, but that smile on your face, tells me you have other plans for me. Nizu, indeed I do. Since you prove that it can be possible. You are limited with what you can use, car parts can only get you so far. I imagine. Izuku looked around with a crooked smile and nodded in agreement, with a shrug. Izuku, you would be correct sir. But for it to have gotten me this far, is an accomplishment. Nizu, agreed. So let me tell you a word-of-mouth secret. The entrance exam isn't the only way to make it into the hero course. Nizu said, as cryptic as ever. This got Izuku's attention as he thought what he meant by it. He placed his hand on his chin and rubbed it in thought. Izuku, and that secret way is the way you want me to enter. Nizu, my quite the smart young man you are. Yes. For you see, if you can make it to the finals of the sport festival, that will give you the chance to join the hero course. Nizu said, and he saw he got Izuku's attention. But more importantly than that, his determination. Izuku, I see. But until that day comes. Nizu, you go into the support course. There you'll have access to better equipment and materials than what you currently possess. Nizu said, giving Izuku his hand as a handshake agreement. Izuku didn't even think twice and he shook Nizu's tiny paw hand. Izuku, that's a setback to my original plan. But a fantastic setback. I agree Nizu, then Izuku midoriya, let me be the first to welcome you to UA. You'll get the official letter on the mail in a couple of weeks. Now I expect big things from you, I do hope you do not disappoint Nizu said with a smile. Izuku smiled back, tough his was a bit more wobbly, as he held back tears of relief, happiness. Tiredness. He really couldn't tell you Izuku, I'll be sure to meet your expectations and surpass them Sir Nizu, that's what I like to hear now excuse me. Both of us, have lots to do, and so little time to do it Nizu said with a chuckle, as he took his hand back and started walking away. Izuku bowed to him as he left. Izuku, of course sir. And thank you for taking a shot at me. Nizu, no need to thank me, I've been waiting for someone like you to come. For a very long time Mr. Midoriya, now. Remember that you'll be representing the 20% of the population. Nizu said as he left. Izuku took a few steps back and sat down on his old worn-down couch, and started running his finger through his hair. Izuku, I made it. Holy crp I made it Izuku muttered to himself, as he started to chuckle softly, that chuckle started to get wet. And Izuku started to cry, with a smile on his face just feeling overwhelmed with the situation. Since after so long, he was finally given a chance. Meanwhile with May we see her in her therapist office, she was swinging her legs side to side on her chair, while Mrs. Sarah wrote something. May was squirming in her seat. Wanting to do something, even if it's just walking. But if she does that, she won't get candy. When Sarah finished writing, she gave May a piece of candy. May took it and ate it happily. Sarah, okay. So your father told me that you went to the AU entrance exams. How did that go? May, oh, it went well, I had to take an exam. I got to show some of my babies, I talked to a boy, and then I had to go to the bathroom, since I forgot to go at home. May kept talking about every detail of her day that day, but Sarah stopped writing and looked at May shocked at one specific thing she said. Sarah, wait. Go back. You talked to a boy. Like a human flesh boy. May, yeah. Well he had a robot suit on. But I'm sure he was a boy. The robot suit it was neat. Though it did have a few errors, I just had to fix, and as soon as the excitement for Sarah came, it went since she knew what that meant for May. The girl didn't know what personal space meant. Sarah, May, tell me you didn't invade his privacy without permission. May, okay, I won't tell you that. But it's fine, since he was grateful, we even talked about mechanics. He told me a bit about how his baby works, and I told him about the baby I was gonna show in the practical exams. May said with a smile. She took a small fidget spinner from her pocket and started playing with it, to just be able to do something with her hands. Sarah, well, that's nice. Did you get his name? May, I did not. Oh. I'm sure I ask around the school, somebody will know. May said with an innocent smile, that just made Sarah want to pull her hair out. She took a shuddering breath. And forced a smile. Sarah, May know. Remember we talked about this. Strangers can have bad intentions. May Okay. So. Now that I'm gonna be going to UA. May said, leaning closer and closer to Sarah, but to her disappointment, Sarah shook her head. No Sarah, no. You know the deal, make at least 3 friends, and then I'll talk to your father, about giving you less sessions with me. May, but it's so hard. May whined, no longer could she stay still. She got up and started pacing around the room. Sarah, made it almost the whole session without getting up, a personal best for her. May, people don't like talking about building babies. They only care about makeup, or boys. Like what am I supposed to do with that? It's not my fault they're stupid. May rambled on about the things girls her age talked about, and how she just didn't get it. Sarah sighed, and gave May another piece of candy to calm down. Sarah, May. We don't call other people's interests stupid. May, but they are. Why can't everybody just talk about making babies? May complained while dragging her feet. Sarah gave a sigh that turned into a chuckle, and smiled at May. Sarah, please. Don't phrase it like that when you're talking to other people, I'm begging you. Now as for you. Here's what's gonna happen. You are gonna read those books I gave to you, and you are gonna prepare yourself for UA and make a friend. Just one friend. If you can do that. I'll talk to your dad, and you'll only have to come here twice a week instead of 3 times a week. Do we have an understanding? May, yes ma'am. May grumbled. They talked a little more, before May's time was up, and she left like a bullet train to the car. While her father Shu Hatsum talked to her Shu, so. Anything new to report? Sarah, well, she talked to a boy, so there's some progress. Sarah said, and she could see the shock and hope built up in his eyes so fast. Shu, a human flesh and BLD boy, right? Sarah, yes. She met her in the UA entrance exam. But I'm confident that she'll make friends in UA. Sarah said. She said some other things, but Shu didn't hear anything. All he could think of is that this boy might finally give May an honest-to-God friend. So as he was walking to his car, he did the only thing he could think of. He prayed, Shu, God, please, I don't ask you for much, well apart from my pony winning the game in the racetracks. But please just make that boy make it to UA, for May. She needs friends, even if it's only one. You should know you made her. Do that and I promise. I'll stop gambling for a whole year. Chapter 4 always being underestimated. It's been weeks since the last chapter. Since then Izuku has been doing only 2 things, training physically and fixing his robot suit. With only once in a blue moon coming back home to get something, this was one of those times. We see him in his room, packing up some papers with his ideas. When an idea popped into his mind, Izuku, wait, maybe that could work. Izuku muttered to himself, as he grabbed a blank piece of paper, and an ink pen. While Inko was behind the door, she had different pamphlets for school choices. She took a breath and knocked on the door. Inko, Izuku. I'm coming in. Izuku stopped writing for a second, but then went back to writing like she didn't say anything. Since Inko didn't hear a no, she took it as an okay sign to come inside. She opened the door and sat on the bed, nervously playing with the pamphlets, while looking at the back of Izuku's head, but she did catch a glance of him with that pseudo-permanent smile on his face. Inko, so school been done for a while. Going into high school, it's a pretty big deal, huh? I know it was for when I was your age. Though that was like a million years ago. Izuku kept ignoring his mother, letting her sit on those self-deprecating jokes. He just kept working and smiling, not even acknowledging her. Inko coughed a bit and took a breath. Inko, and I think it's time for you to start thinking of where you'll want to go to high school. You could go virtually, I heard that's all the rage these days. Oh. Or this nice vocational school. Inko flinched when she heard Izuku's pen snap. It wasn't a wooden one, it was a pure metal ink pen. Izuku rolled his chair and grabbed a few handy wipes to clean his hand. Never once acknowledging her, but she knew he heard it all, seeing as the smile never left. Inko remained firm, well as firm as she could be, which wasn't a lot, but it was something. Inko, Now Izuku, I know it's not the best option, but given your condition, it really is a good option. I mean, in just a few years, you could be like a mechanic. Be your own boss. Doesn't that sound like something? You could have an actual career to be proud of. It's an honest living, way better than being a cleaner like me. Izuku. Izuku opened a drawer and handed Inko a letter. Inko looked at it and then looked back at Izuku, who was back to work. With a sigh, she opened it. She flinched a little when a hologram of a white mouse appeared. Nizu, hello Mrs. Midoriya. If you're seeing this, it must mean that you started to talk about Izuku, about high school choices. Inko, I'm so confused, what am I looking at? Inko asked, but as always Izuku didn't acknowledge her existence. With a sad, she kept watching the video. Nizu, well, you don't have to worry about that. Since your boy has already been accepted into UA. In the support department. Inko, What? Inko said, completely shocked, looking at the back of his son's head. And then at the hologram. Not being able to believe it. Nizu, yes, you've raised quite the intelligent boy Mrs. Midoriya, so filled with potential. I'll be seeing your boy on August 26th for his first day of school. And Izuku Midoriya, if you're watching this with her. Again, welcome to UA. You should be very proud of yourself. The video ended, and both of them just stood there in silence, Izuku just trying not to show emotions, after Nizu acknowledged his accomplishments. And Inko just plain shocked that her boy made it to one of the most prestigious schools in the country. She didn't know how to react. She flinched, when Izuku closed his briefcase, and started walking out. Inko stumbled on her feet, but caught up to Izuku. Inko, Izuku, wait. Please wait. Izuku had his hand on the doorknob. But stopped. Inko saw this as a good sign and she took a few breaths to compose herself. Inko, well, I don't know what to say. What can I say? Wow, just wow. You should celebrate. I can make you some katsudon. Izuku, I already ate. Izuku said, there was no emotion in his voice, no feelings in his eyes, and that smile that Inko hates so much, never leaving his face. Izuku the door and left. Inko almost wished that he slammed the door, but he didn't. He closed it completely normally, which just made her guilt all the worse. Inko, I'm proud of you, Inko said softly, as she felt her heartache get bigger. Her son just accomplished something incredible, and she couldn't even muster up any congratulations, or I'm proud of you, when he was here. With a shuddering breath, she went to the sofa, and just put her hands on her face. She wasn't crying, she was in that stage just before crying, where your breathing is ragged. She must have stayed like that for almost 10 minutes till the door was slammed open. Inko already knew who it was. Mitsuki, hey girl. My son just got his acceptance letter from UA. What happened? Was it Hisashi? Did he complain about the child support? Let me call the BSTRD. Inko, it's not that. It's just Izuku's high school. Inko said softly, pinching the bridge of her nose to stop from crying. Mitsuki winced, and sat down next to Inko. Mitsuki, I take it, he didn't take the whole vocational school all that well. Did you tell him about being a mechanic? You know it's really an honest decent living. Inko, wait here. Inko said, getting up, and walking to Izuku's room to get the UA letter. She came back with it, and Mitsuki looked confused. Mitsuki, hey, that looks like the letter Katsuki just got with Izuku. We see him walking to the junkyard with a smile on his face. He was angry, he wanted to frown. But he kept the ever-present smile on his face, for the public to see. Izuku, keep smiling. Remember, stay in control. Izuku thought to himself, as he heard someone grunting. He turned and saw a boy with purple hair getting beat up. Izuku didn't waste time, he ran to them, grabbing a trash can while he ran and hit one of the boys in the head with it. When the other boy turned, Izuku throat punched him, making him crouch down holding it. Izuku, hey man, are you okay? Two don't know who you are, but... Izuku hit the boy with the trash can again, making sure he stays down, groaning. He glared at the other one, who flinched and left running. Shinso looked at the boy surprised, and got up. Shinso, yeah. These guys. Are you classmates of my old school? I'm Izuku, Hitoshi. Shinso. I know who you are. I'm the robot boy, formed the entrance exam, remember? Izuku said with a more sincere smile. It took Shinso a second. But then he remembered Izuku. Shinso, oh. Yeah, hey, glad to finally see your face. Wanna get out of here? Knowing Arai, he's gonna come back with more of his buddies. Izuku, oh, yeah, let's go. I know a place where they won't find us, Izuku said, as he kicked the boy on the ground a little to make sure he was alive. Both of them heard him groan. It was good enough for them, and they left the alleyway. Shinso, cool. Thanks man. Izuku, no prob, us bullied kids have to stick together, you know. Izuku said with a morbid chuckle. That Shinso joined him in, as they walked past the cat cafe Shinso was originally going. Shinso, you were bullied. You built a robot suit, that's like the coolest thing ever. Izuku, quirkless. It really is sad, that's all I need to say. For you to know why. How about you? Izuku asked. Shinso was gonna lie. But after hearing the word quirkless, he decided there wasn't any reason. Izuku has it just as bad as he does Shinso. I have what people consider a villainous quirk. Izuku, Wonder who has it worse. Izuku said. Both snorted at the question, since they knew both got screwed over by life. And worse by living in Japan, a place not known for liking people who are even a little different. Shinso, let's call it a draw. So where's this place anyways? Izuku, my workshop. Back to Inko. We see them still in the living room, only they upgraded and had a 12-pack of cheap beer on the table, with half of them already gone. Mitsuki, holy sht. Mitsuki muttered, she just finished rewatching the hologram for the 5th time. While Inko watched at Izuku's score. Inko, he made it 1 RST in his written test and 3rd place in his practical test. He probably had to build something, right? If he's going to the support course, he must have built something. Mitsuki, holy sht was the only response Mitsuki could give, still shocked that Izuku midoriya actually made it into UA. And then the guilt set in, since the vocational school was her idea. Mitsuki, oh god. Please tell me he showed you this, before you showed him the pamphlets. Inko, you caught me about to cry. What does that tell you? Inko said with a frustrated sigh, as she drank beer. Mitsuki winced, rubbing the back of her head. Mitsuki, oh Inko, I'm so sorry. Want me to talk to him? Tell him it was my fault. Inko, wouldn't make a difference, he still wouldn't talk to me. Or show any emotion other than that fake smile he always has on. Inko said, giving a groan in frustration. She took another swing of her beer. She wanted to drown her sorrows. Mitsuki, well maybe. Inko, I'm not gonna hit him. Mitsuki. That may work for Katsuki, but it'll just make things worse with Izuku. Inko muttered, looking at the photos on the wall. There were so few of them, and the ones she did have were all of Izuku with that fake smile. It turned her from an angry drunk to a sad drunk. Mitsuki, sorry. I just wish I could help you. Inko, you and me both. I'm just scared. Suki, I'm scared that he'll leave after he's 18 and I'll never see him again. Inko muttered, sinking herself on the couch. Mitsuki, being the extrovert she is, hugged Inko's shoulder and pulled her back up. Mitsuki, come on, he's not gonna leave you, he's your son. He knows you love him. Inko, sometimes I wonder if he even loves me. Inko muttered, finally reaching who she always becomes when she drinks, the depressed drunk. Mitsuki gave a loud snort of indignation. Mitsuki, Inko, no. You know he does. Inko, do I? He never talks to me. He's almost never here. He never picks up my calls. The most I can get out of him is an "I'm safe" text before he leaves me on read, while he's only God knows where. So do I really know if he loves me? Or is he just waiting for an excuse to leave me and never look back like Hisashi did? Inko said. As the waterworks started to happen, Inko started to ugly cry and fast. Mitsuki took the beer away from Inko and hugged her tighter. Mitsuki, okay, I think you've had enough beer for today, and it's not even noon. Inko, it's my day off. Let me wallow in my misery, not like I've got anyone here to see me like this. Inko said, trying to get her beer back, but Mitsuki basically had her in a hug burrito. She couldn't move. While Inko was a sad drunk, Mitsuki was a touchy drunk. Mitsuki, I'm here. Inko, and I've also seen you faced at a Metallica concert. So you can't judge me. Mitsuki, it was their goodbye tour. You but. Inko just giggled as they stayed like that until they both passed out. Masaru would later find them like that, and make sure they don't choke on their own throw up, but for now. They just cuddled together. Chapter 5, A Footstep of a Giant. So y'all get an extra chapter today. A few weeks after the last chapter with Bakugo Katsuki, we see him in a foul mood. He's been in a foul mood for weeks. You might be wondering why. Flashback. Katsuki, what do you mean that Deku is gonna be in UA? Bakugo asked, furious as he slammed his fist on the table. That got him a hit behind the head. Mitsuki, don't you take that F-tone with me. And what did I say about calling Izuku that? Masaru, okay, let's all calm down a minute, Masaru said with a nervous smile, as always being the bridge between his wife and his son. Both mother and son scoffed and crossed their arms. Mitsuki, fine. Look, I don't know what your attitude is. But knock it off. The world doesn't revolve around you. If Izuku made it to UA, you should be happy with your friend Katsuki, TSK. Katsuki only clicked his tongue and left the house, slamming the door so hard he cracked the small mirror on top of the door. That only made Mitsuki more furious. Masaru sighed and went to grab some tea, to calm his wife down. Back to the present. Bakugo has been looking for Izuku to force the little quirkless to drop out of UA, since Katsuki was supposed to be the only student in their class, to make it in. And he won't have that Deku ruin his plans. Bakugo, where the F are you, Deku? Meanwhile with Izuku, we see Izuku on a homemade treadmill, just outside his laboratory. He was running at a steady pace. He could see the almost rebuilt Mach 1 and couldn't help but let his mind wander. At the day that changed his life for the better. Flashback, we see a small Izuku alone. He was in a forest alone, walking deep into the forest, so no one would be able to find it. Since Izuku was currently in the Aokigahara forest, with only one thing on his mind, the end. Izuku, this is for the best. I'll be able to get a quirk in my next life, Izuku muttered softly to himself, as he stopped walking and looked at a big tree, that won't break under his weight. With a soft sigh, he started climbing, when he closed his eyes tightly, since some red light was blinding him. Izuku, arg. What was that? Izuku said softly, as he climbed down and looked around, trying to find the source of the light. He found it coming from inside of a cave, that looked like it once had a door in it. Izuku dropped the rope and walked inside. To see what was inside of it, he might as well satisfy his curiosity one last time. He walked down the flight of stairs, and the light suddenly turned on, blinding Izuku for a second. Jarvis, hello sir. Can I help you? Izuku, who's talking right now? What is this place? Izuku asked, rubbing his eyes as he heard more lights turning on, as the voice spoke again. Jarvis. My name is Jarvis. It stands for, just a rather very intelligent system, in English. This place is Mr. Tony Stark's emergency workshop, Japan edition. Izuku, Tony Stark? Izuku asked, opening his eyes, and what he saw made his eyes widen. This place was indeed a workshop. Sure, the tools and machines looked rusted, and the screen that was talking to him was cracked, but Izuku could tell that this place meant something. He walked further inside, and sat down on the chair in front of the machine. Jarvis, Tony Stark is my creator. He is the hero known as Ironman. Izuku, hero. But I've never heard of him. Are you sure? Izuku said softly. The computer screen got quiet for a few seconds, probably analyzing what Izuku just said. Jarvis, a moment. While I update. Izuku, okay. Can you show me videos of this Iron Man while you update? Jarvis, certainly, Jarvis said, and he showed Izuku everything he could, though a lot of the videos were too corrupted to be seen. But Izuku caught the general gist, and to say he was shocked, would be the understatement of the century. Izuku saw this Tony Stark build a robot suit, and using it to save people. He became a hero without a quirk, without a mutation, nothing but his own intelligence. Izuku doesn't know how long he's been watching the videos, but Jarvis' voice brought him back to reality. Jarvis, oh dear. It's been 3,000 years since I last was used. And my analysis says that Tony Stark and his descendants have all died out, and by the looks of it, this is the last remaining lab that's still operational. Izuku, oh. I am sorry. Izuku said softly. Since the AI voice sounded legitimately sad. Izuku looked around, at the robot suits in the walls. They were all rusted and unusable, but they filled Izuku's heart with such wonder. Izuku, Jarvis. If I could be so bold to ask, could I become a hero? Could I be the new Iron Man? Jarvis, you wish to activate Project New Legacy? Jarvis asked. Izuku looked confused, but hopeful since that wasn't a no, so with a small gulp he continued the conversation. Izuku, what's Project New Legacy? Jarvis, Mr. Stark's contingency plan, if Iron Man was ever needed again, and he was dead. Tell me, do you believe that the world needs Iron Man? There are already a number of heroes out there, Jarvis said. Already he was testing the boy's resolve, and he did not disappoint since he spoke with such passion, or desperation. But either way, he spoke with deep emotions in his tone of voice. Izuku, yes. But none of them are quirkless. The world needs Iron Man, the world needs a quirkless hero, to give hope for that 20%. Please let me be that hope. I'll do whatever I need to do. Please. Jarvis, very well. To start you must study robotics, mechanics, and a number of other things before I'm allowed to give you the blueprints. Do the suits, Jarvis said, making Izuku lean back on the chair. It cracked a little, but Izuku didn't hear it, he was just letting it all set in. After so long, he finally had a shot at becoming a real hero, without a quirk. Izuku, okay. Just tell me what books to read, and I'll do it. Jarvis, searching for current books on all the subjects. You must also train physically, to operate the suits, it takes a lot of physical strength. Should I also download for you a meal and exercise plan? Jarvis asked. Izuku looked at his body and touched it. It was soft, not a toned muscle to speak of. Izuku looked up at the cracked screen with nothing but determination in his voice, and in his tone. Izuku, yes. Everything I'll need, give it to me. I promise I'll make Tony Stark proud. Back to the present. Izuku, I won't be Iron Man, I am Iron Man. Izuku thought to himself to keep his determination up. It's been years since that day. Izuku has been studying non-stop, he's been physically training non-stop, and the fruits of his labors are finally starting to bloom. Izuku kept running when he heard someone calling his name from behind him. Shinso, yo Izuku. Hope you don't mind that I'm back. Izuku, nah, I did say you can hide here, whenever your bullies are acting up. Izuku said, turning off the machine, and turning around. To say Shinso was gobsmacked would be an understatement. Izuku was ripped. Izuku for his part didn't notice anything wrong, and just grabbed a towel and started cleaning himself. Shinso, man. You're making me a bit insecure about my body. Izuku, then train and get a better one like I did. Izuku said simply, looking at his numbers, and he clicked his tongue. His time was fine. But it needed to be better. Izuku needed to be better. He was taken back to the real world, when he Shinso sigh. Shinso, yeah, like it's that simple. Izuku, it really is. Hell, you're still planning on making it to the hero course, right? Izuku asked, looking at him. He saw the determination behind the purple-haired boy's eyes. Shinso nodded, as his hands were made into fists. Shinso, yeah. Nothing gonna stop me. Izuku, okay. Then what training do you do? Do you do like any to speak of? Izuku asked, trying to be nice, but he looked Shinso up and down, he didn't have a lot of muscle mass to speak of. Shinso thought about it for a second, and rubbed the back of his neck. Shinso, I mean, I go on jogs. Izuku, yeah. You lost the argument. Izuku said firmly, he then placed his hand on Shinso's shoulder, and gave the boy a scary look on his face since his eyes showed sternness, but his smile never left his mouth. Izuku, Shinso, we are both at a huge disadvantage already. We need to train 3 times as much as those assholes with flashy quirks. How do you expect to make it, if you don't at least train your physique? Shinso, okay. Okay. You got a point. Shinso said with a sigh. He shook Izuku's hand off his shoulder and just shrugged, looking frustrated. Shinso, but what can I do? I can't afford a gym membership, or equipment. Izuku, and you think I can? Look around, dude. Everything I have, I built from car parts, from my suit, to my exercise equipment. Izuku said, and Shinso hated to admit, that the green-haired boy did make a good point. Izuku, if you're always looking for an excuse, you'll never be a real man, dude. Since you'll always be blaming other people for your faults. Shinso, and you don't. Shinso asked with a small smirk. Izuku chuckled and pointed to his robot suit, the Mark I. Izuku, you have seen my robot suit, right? Their words, their actions, all it does is fuel me to prove them wrong. I'm not gonna give them the chance to just ignore me. I'm gonna make sure I'm heard. Izuku said, and for a second Shinso thought that the smile disappeared from Izuku's face, but it didn't. His eyes did become more angry, more determined. Since in Izuku's mind he was going up against the world alone. And it's not far from the truth. Izuku, if you don't have any equipment, do exercises that don't require it. You want to lift weights. Grab 2 jugs and fill them with water. Or the simplest option Shinso, and what is that? Shinso asked. Izuku moved aside and showed Shinso his treadmill. The thing looked like you would need a tetanus shot if you're not careful. Izuku, swallow your pride, and ask me for help. UA is like 2 months away. And the sports festival is our only shot into the hero course. There's still time for you to get stronger. But only if you put in the work. Shinso, Izuku. Can you help me? Shinso asked with a sigh. Izuku nodded and grabbed Shinso's hand, shaking it. Izuku, it'll be my pleasure. As of right now, I'll be your unofficial gym buddy. Meanwhile with Kirishima we see the black hair boy stop walking and look up at the sky. Mina looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Mina, Kiri. Is something wrong? Kirishima, no. Something appealing just happened. I felt it. A new gym bro friendship was created. Kirishima said softly, with a single manly tear falling from his cheek. Mina rolled her eyes, and grinned at him. Mina, that's nice, so. Don't forget you lost the bet. You gotta paint your hair red. Kirishima, arg. Come on Min, it'll look horrible on me. Kirishima whined, but Mina ignored him and started to whistle, as they walked to Walgreens to get some hair dye. Mina, a deal's a deal. Back to Izuku and Shinso. Izuku, first of all catch Shinso, is this a Walkman? Shinso asked, looking at what he had in his hands. Sure enough it was a Sony TPS L2 Walkman headset. One that Izuku refurbished, and some tapes. Izuku, yup, and some self-help tapes. To become better physically, you need to be better mentally. And your self-worth is in the toilets. Shinso, fair enough. Fine, I'll listen them. Shinso said, putting the machine on his pocket, and the headphones around his neck. But Izuku shook his head. Izuku, more than that. Take the words of that man to heart. If it wasn't for those tapes, I wouldn't have had as much motivation as I do now. Now as for the next step. Let's see what I have to work with. Shirts off and let's get to work. Chapter 6. A big smile for the first day. 2 months time skip. It was a rare blue moon. Izuku was back at home. He was getting dressed for his first day at UA. While Inko was in the living room, she was sitting on the sofa, with a camera in hand, waiting to see Izuku off. And if she's so lucky, to maybe have a picture of him. The doorbell was rung, so Inko knew it wasn't Mitsuki. Inko, see. Coming, Inko said as she got up and opened the door. She was confused when she saw a boy around Izuku's age with purple hair in a workout outfit. Inko, hello, can I help you? Shinso, yeah. Is Izuku ready? We're gonna head to UA together. Shinso asked with a small smile. Inko looked at this boy shocked. He couldn't be. Could he? Inko dared herself to ask. Inko, I'm sorry. But are you a friend of my son? Shinso, I guess you can call us friends. Yes. Nice to meet you, I'm Hitoshi. Shinso said. He was feeling a little uncomfortable with the look Inko was giving him. It was one of just straight-up bewilderment. Inko shook her head, and gave Shinso a big but very nervous smile. Inko, it's very nice to meet you too. How long have you two been friends? Shinso, well, we met at the entrance exam for UA. So just a few months. Shinso said, rubbing the back of his neck in thought. Inko was still a little out of it, but to be fair to her, Izuku doesn't share anything about his life with her, so she earned this Inko surprised face. Oh, how nice. Well, if you ever want to see my son, you can come on by. Our door is always open. Izuku, sorry I'm late. Needed to make sure I had everything. Inko turned around to look at her son, but of course he was talking to Shinso, not the both of them. She looked at her son in his workout clothes, a new backpack filled with who knows what, and that ever-present fake smile that he never takes off. She couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Izuku, let's go. It's a long jog to UA, got your uniform? Shinso, in my backpack. It was nice to meet you, Mrs. Midoriya. Shinso said as he started to walk away. Izuku didn't even spare his mother a glance. when Inko touched his shoulder, Izuku shoved the hand away, making Inko flinch and take a step back. Inko, too, just wanted to wish you luck, and take a picture. This is your first day after all. Please Izuku. Izuku dropped his backpack, moving it out of view, and looked at Inko waiting. Inko flinched, stumbling a little, almost dropping her Kamara. She took a breath to calm herself, and took the picture. She wishes she could say, she's happy with it. But she can't, not while Izuku has that fake smile on his face. She was about to ask for another one, but she heard the door closing. She again missed her shot. She sighed sadly, and looked back at the picture with Izuku. He caught up with Shinso, as they started walking down the stairs. Shinso spared him a glance. Shinso, I'm guessing there's bad blood with your mother and you. Izuku, I'm a quirkless boy, wanting to be a hero. How do you think she reacted? Izuku said with a fake chuckle. Shinso is still not completely used to Izuku's never-ending smile, and found that a little creepy. Shinso, ouch. Can't say I have that problem, my parents love me. Hell, they have quirks similar to mine, and want me to become a hero, to show the world that it's not the quirk that makes the villain. Izuku, lucky you. Alright, ready to do this. Shinso, as I'll ever be. But why are we up so early? Shinso complained, the sun was just coming up. Izuku looked at the distance with a small smirk. Izuku, because it's an hour-and-a-half jog to UA. Shinso, whoa. Why the hell are we jogging instead of taking the train? Shinso asked. Izuku shook his head, disappointed in Shinso's idea. He still has ways to go, before he's fully deprogrammed by that mindset. Izuku, because people with flashy quirks get that luxury. We do not, we need to train every chance we get, if we want to make it to the finals of the sport festival. Shinso, okay. Okay. You're right. Shinso said with a sigh. Izuku tapped Shinso's shoulder to give him some support, and then put on his earphones to start his jog. Izuku, fantastic, now earphones on. Music on shuffle and let's get this started. Shinso, let's do it then. Shinso said, as they started to jog to UA. This another step for them to make it to the hero course, and Izuku was gonna make sure that they both make it. Since he's grown to like Shinso's company later. Izuku, we made it. Let's take a minute and just take it all in. Shinso, okay. Shinso said, as they both stood there looking at the entrance of UA. Izuku felt pride for himself, all his work was made for this moment. While Shinso felt nothing, this was just not his kind of thing. So he just waited for Izuku to get something out of this. Izuku took a deep breath and started walking inside, with Shinso next to him. Izuku, look around. Shinso. They don't realize it. But everyone here is gonna see legends be born soon. Shinso, you certainly have a high opinion about yourself. Shinso said with a small chuckle as he glanced around. People were staring at them, but mostly because they had exercise clothes on instead of UA uniform. Izuku, I said legends plural, my friend. One for the quirkless, and one for the villainous quirks. Shinso, If we make it. Chances are slim for me. Shinso muttered with a frown, that made Izuku's eyebrow to furrow. But since he was in public, his smile never left his face, no matter how much he wanted to frown, over what Shinso just said. Izuku, smile my friend, that pessimistic attitude has no room in your mind. If you stay negative, you'll miss the forest for the trees. Shinso, Izuku, dude, you're the exception to the rule. We've both got dealt a bad hand. And the majority would react like I do. Being pessimistic, Shinso said as they walked inside. Since Shinso was covering his view, Bakugo Katsuki missed Izuku. Izuku for his part smiled at his friend, and wagged his finger in disagreement. Izuku, correction. The lazy, will react like that. And you are not lazy, you are still fighting for recognition. And we'll get it, as long as we keep fighting. Shinso, what it must be inside your head. Shinso said with a chuckle. Izuku joined him in the chuckle, though Izuku's was a lot more bitter. Izuku, trust me, you don't want to go inside there. It's not a pretty place. Now come on, we gotta hit the shower, last thing we need, is to smell like hog. But Izuku said with a chuckle, Shinso nodded in total agreement, but then he looked at Izuku a little confused. Shinso, wait, how do you know this place has showers? Izuku, I don't. But my new workshop does. Thanks to Nizu, I got a new workshop with a better bed, couch, shower, hell even a bathroom. If I could make Uber Eats drive at the door, I would never leave the place. Izuku said with a small grin, since any excuse to not go home he'll take it. Shinso looked at him a bit surprised of all the things Izuku has gotten. Shinso, DMN, he gave you all that. Izuku, he expects big things from me. Nizu, indeed I do. Nizu said out of nowhere. Izuku and Shinso were taken by surprise and screamed. Izuku and Shinso, ah. Nizu, oh dear. Did I scare you too? Nizu said with a smile identical to Izuku. Izuku chuckled, his smile never leaving his face. Seeing both beings smile like that, really creeped Shinso out. Izuku, surprise would be a more accurate word. Nizu sir. Nice to see you again, this is my friend Hitoshi. Shinso. Shinso, hello Principal. Nizu. Shinso said with a small wave. He flinched when the smiling chimera turned his head slowly towards him. Nizu, ah yes. I've read your file, I must admit that you have a very powerful quirk, stronger than a few of the students in the hero course in my opinion. Shinso, let me guess. I didn't make it, because I could barely destroy a one-pointer. Shinso said with a sigh. His grades were average, his physical results were abysmal, it's a miracle he made it to general studies. Nizu just nodded with his smile becoming brighter. Nizu, completely correct. But it seems that you are training with my pupil Izuku. Shinso, pupil. Izuku and Shinso said, both were completely flabbergasted. Izuku was almost shocked enough to stop smiling. Almost. But not quite. Nizu for his part just chuckled. Nizu, yes. Pupil. Tell me boy, why else do you think I've given you, your own workshop? Something that is only given to second year and beyond. Izuku, never gave it much thought, you know what they say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. But sir, you really want me to study under you? Izuku asked with a raised eyebrow, curious why someone as Nizu would be interested in a quirkless like him. Nizu, indeed I do. Since I see myself in you boy, no flashy power to speak of, only intelligence. And yet look what you've achieved with just that. I want to nurture that intelligence into something more. Izuku, too am a bit speechless sir. Izuku said in a soft tone, he can't remember the last time anybody believed in him, and Nizu has been showing him nothing but support. Nizu, that's quite alright. Just don't expect me to go easy on you, all your homework, all your tests, will be given by me, you will also receive more work than the others. And I won't accept anything less than a 90%. Am I, clear young man? Izuku, yes sir. I'll try my best not to disappoint you. Izuku said with determination behind his tone. Nizu nodded in approval. Shinso looked at the two and coughed to get their attention. Shinso, sorry to interrupt. But what about me? Nizu, oh, yes. Sorry about my Mr. Hitoshi. You see, while your ability is quite powerful, your physical powers are laughable at best. You need to train more physically, if you want a chance at the hero course. Nizu explained, and Shinso couldn't see the flaw in his logic, since he naively believed that all he needed was his mind control ability to become a hero. Shinso, yes sir. Your pupil made that very clear. He's been training with me. Izuku, yes. Since we both have the same goal. It'll be easier if we work together. Izuku said with a confident smile. Shinso nodded and smirked a little, but both Izuku and Nizu could tell that it was all bluff. Nizu, oh. How so? Since only one of you can win the sport festival. Izuku, but you never said I needed to win to make it to the hero course. You said I needed to make it to the finals. So me and Shinso agreed that we'll help each other make it to the finals together. Hell, just to be cocky. We won't just make it to the finals, we'll make it to the final match of the final competition. Whatever that may be. Izuku said with his smile becoming bigger and bigger that it even freaked Nizu out a little, especially with those insane eyes he had on, though he was a little proud that Izuku found a loophole in the loophole, so he laughed. Nizu, ha 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 ha, now that's the spirit I like to hear. But tell me, since I'm curious. What kind of training have the two of you been doing? Shinso, well, apart from intense cardio and weightlifting. We've also been practicing fighting chapter 7 this time. Hell will be different last time. Shinso, well, apart from intense cardio and weightlifting. We've also been practicing fighting flashback. Izuku, get up. We ain't done. Now get up, Izuku said with a growl. We see Shinso on the ground groaning, while Izuku was looking down at him. Izuku's feet never stopped moving as he walked around him doing the ollie shuffle. Shinso, you ain't. I can't go anymore. Izuku, then you'll never be a hero. Since imagine that I'm a villain. If you give up, I'll go and harm innocent civilians. Real heroes fight until they pass out, and you are still conscious. So get the F up. Izuku said firmly, his smile never leaving. Shinso nodded slowly and with trembling legs, he got up. He got his fists up, but there was no form behind it. Shinso, I gotta know, how you get so good. Izuku, YouTube videos, and whatever book on fighting I could find. Don't get me wrong, if I face someone who knows how to fight, I'm screwed. But this will hold me over till I can get better training on the hero course. Anyways, found out of this old fighter called Muhammad Ali. The man was so powerful that he could beat an old hero called Superman. So I copied his style, to the best of my ability and availability information. Izuku said. Of course Izuku had no way to know that was just a comic book. But to Izuku, it was real and that all that mattered. Shinso, then shouldn't you show me those videos and books, so I can practice and then we fight? Izuku, yes and no. Yes I will, but not yet. First I wanted to see how well you fight. And also to teach you how to take a real punch. We ain't stopping till you pass out. Now come at me. Back to the present. Nizu, lovely, well you two should hurry to get showered and changed. Class are to start soon. Also what's that over there? Nizu pointed. They looked but saw nothing. They looked back at Nizu but he was gone. They looked at each other and just shrugged. They made it to Izuku's new workshop, and Shinso couldn't help but whistle a little. It was definitely modern, to what his old one looked. One Izuku, go take a shower first, I'm gonna do a few changes to that huge but computer in front of us. Shinso, bet. Shinso said as he left to the bathroom. Izuku walked up to the giant monitor and connected his phone. Do it. Letting Jarvis take over the system. Jarvis, hello Mstr Izuku. I see you've gotten an upgrade. Izuku, indeed I have. But I've finished and tested out the Mark 1, it was a success. I believe I earned the right for the next blueprint. Izuku said with confidence. Jarvis hacked Nizu's security feed and watched the entrance exam. Izuku heard the printer being turned on. And he walked to it, grabbing the blueprints, but just like the Mark 1 blueprints, this one was also incomplete. Jarvis, indeed you did. There in your hands is the unfinished blueprints to the Mark II, complete them to be worthy for the Mark III. Izuku, you got it. But till then, the Mark I will have to do. Izuku muttered to himself, as he looked at the large suit looking at him. Izuku looked at another way, and took his notepad out. He started to write the blueprint, trying to finish the incomplete parts. While he waited Shinso to get out of the showers, Izuku was too busy with the blueprints that he didn't notice Shinso finished until he touched his shoulder. Shinso, hey you good? Izuku, huh? Oh. Yeah. Just looking at my next project. The Mark. Take a look. Izuku said, showing the blueprints. Shinso looked at them for a minute. He didn't understand a lick of what the paper said, but did see a tiny detail. Shinso, looks cool. But, it kinda looks a lot more weak than the one in the entrance exams, which has to be the Mark I, right? Izuku, right, you are my sleep-deprived friend. On both ends. But this one isn't for super strength, it's for super flight. Izuku said with a big grin, thinking of all the ways he can help people with the power of flight. Shinso nodded, but he did purse his lips a little in thought. Shinso, ah, gotcha. But should you really can it, super, flight? Since flight isn't all that super anymore. Izuku, oh, I'm sorry. Can you fly without an airplane? Izuku said snarky. Shinso pretended to be deep in thought in that question, until he snapped his fifer. Shinso, yes. It's called a helicopter Izuku, without any aviation vehicles Izuku countered with a little twitch on his eye. Shinso repeated his process and shrugged. Shinso, hang gliders Izuku, that doesn't count. That's falling with style Izuku corrected with a huff. Shinso just snorted as he started walking away to class. He waved his hand as a goodbye. Shinso, a wingsuit Izuku, okay. I get it you but Izuku said with a huff. Shinso snickered as he walked away. He stopped at the door and turned around to see Izuku, not going to the shower, but back to his work. Shinso, hee. Seriously though, looks cool. But take a bath, class will start soon. Izuku, fine, see you after class for training. Izuku said putting his journal down, and reluctantly dragging his feet to the bathroom. Shinso, like I have a choice, you would hunt me down, if I try to run away. Izuku, hey, you wanted my help. Don't get pissy with me. Because you didn't realize that I'm borderline insane. That's on you. Izuku said turning around and looking at Shinso with a smirk that just creeped him out. This boy never stopped smiling. Shinso, really? How do you figure? Izuku, would a normal quirkless, actually try to become a hero? Izuku admitted with a shrug. Shinso didn't even need to think about it, he just nodded in total agreement. Shinso, fair enough. Alright, I'm gonna go. Izuku, later. Izuku said as they went their separate ways. Izuku entered the shode closing his eyes, letting the cold water wake his body up. When it hit him, Izuku, that's it. Izuku yelled as he slipped and fell. Getting out of the shower, he got up naked, running to his journal and started writing on it like there's no tomorrow. Izuku, that's how you made it fly, Mr. Stark, you were one hell of a genius. Izuku muttered to himself as he worked. His trained brain was on the right tracks. What still stumped him though, was the energy source for everything. Scene change. We see Izuku running. He was 5 minutes late to class, but it was worth it in his mind. It also didn't help that the school was like a maze. He ended up in the cafeteria before he finally made it to his classroom. He opened the door and had everyone look at his nervously smiling face. Name. Izuku, Izuku midoriya. Izuku said with a grin, that people found cocky since he was late and had food on his hands, while some of them skipped breakfast just to be here on time. Ah yes. Nizu's little project. You're late. Izuku, indeed I am, and I brought you something to apologize for being late. Izuku said with a bigger grin, showing the bag of donuts and the hot cup of coffee. PL looked at it, and then at the student. Izuku couldn't see it, but he guessed that the man had a raised eyebrow. PL, you think a bribe is gonna stop me from putting this to your permanent record? Izuku, if it's hot coffee and 2 glazed donuts from the cafeteria then yeah. I'm banking on the chance, that your coworkers didn't leave you with anything in the teacher's lounge and the fact that you are a veteran teacher and you are just tired. So you're more willing to take bribes. Izuku said with a wink. The room was tense as everyone waited to see what the teacher will do. Most of them wanted him to give the smiling green hair boy a mark on his records just to wipe the smug smile off his face. But much to their disappointed, PL nodded. PL, you would be correct. Just put them on my desk and sit down next to let's see who's available. Her. The girl with the pink hair. The rest of you, talk quietly with each other until I finish my bribe. I'm starving. PL said as he waved Izuku off. Izuku looked at the pink hair girl, and imagine his surprise when it was the girl, who's been in the back of his mind for months. He gladly sat down next to her and looked at what she was doing. He couldn't help but chuckle. Izuku, now is my turn to say what you did wrong. You switched the wrong cables, it'll blow up if you turn it on. Mei, huh? What do you mean your turn? Mei asked, looking at Izuku. Izuku would have been offended, if it wasn't for the fact that he never took the mask off in the test. So he just kept the smile on his face and chuckled. Izuku, nice to meet you again, I'm Izuku midoriya. The boy in the robot suit. Mei, oh. Nice to see you again. And you are wrong. There is nothing wrong with my cables, Mei said, looking at them. Izuku snorted a little when he heard Mei curse under her breath, and fix the wires. Mei, those wires weren't wrong. It just looked wrong from your perspective. Izuku, gotcha, my bad then. So, you already know my name, Izuku said, trying to get a conversation started. Mei didn't look at him, she kept her eyes fixated on her baby. Mei, I do. Since when? Izuku, didn't you listen when I walked in? The teacher asked me my name, and I did my whole bribe shtick. Izuku said with a raised eyebrow, but again Mei didn't look at him, just shrugged her shoulder. Mei, I did not. I was busy with something more important. Finishing my baby. Izuku, your baby? Izuku asked, confused, looking at what looks like a pair of goggles. Mei nodded with a bright smile. Mei, yes, my baby. Izuku, and pray tell, what does your baby do? Izuku asked, leaning closer to the device. Mei moved her hand to show it better to him. Mei, they give me enhanced sight. They're my goggle babies. My very first baby. Izuku, ah, I get that. Sentimental value and all that stuff. I feel the same way with my first invention. Izuku said with a grin. Mei looked at him with something Izuku hasn't seen in himself in years, genuine pure curiosity. Since what Izuku has is spiteful curiosity. Totally different. Mei, oh. What was it? Izuku, a super toaster. That thing could toast everything to perfection, bagels, breads, you name it. Unfortunately it came to life and tried to kill me, so I had to do what I had to do. Izuku said, making the whole story up. It took Izuku by surprise when Mei gave him a look that said, I know you're lying, Mei, you're making that up. Izuku, I am, doesn't make it a good story. You didn't even let me get to the part where it fuses with the other appliances in my workshop and wreaks havoc to Tokyo. Izuku said with a chuckle, putting that surprise in his back pocket. For now, he'll dissect it when he's alone. For now, he forced the smoke even more. Mei, and how does the story ends anyway? Izuku, I tricked it into believing it burned a piece of bread. His main function, he can't handle it and it explodes. Like a American Hollywood type explosion. Izuku said, and his smile becomes a little more genuine, since he got the pink hair girl to laugh. Mei, that's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard. Izuku, maybe. But it got a smile on your face, so I count that as a win. You know what they say, you are never fully dressed without a smile. And I must say, you have a very pretty smile. Izuku said, and again Mei managed to surprise him. Since she didn't react at all to the small compliment, he even thinks that she didn't notice that he complimented her. Which she didn't decades into the future. Mei, wait a minute, when we first met, were you flirting with me? Mei asked, as she looked at Izuku. They were cuddling in the bed naked, after just having a fun night together. Izuku just looked at her and kissed her cheek. Izuku, yup, have been for years. Thanks for noticing. Mei, to be fair, I've gotten better at it. Now I don't need you to tell me, it's a compliment. Mei muttered bitterly with a small blush of embarrassment. Izuku just snickered as he petted her hair. Izuku, shame, I found that very cute. Back to the present. Mei, so, what really was your first baby? Mei asked with curiosity. Izuku rubbed the back of his head in thought for a second, before speaking. Izuku, wouldn't call it my first, it was really a bunch of little things, all building up to one big thing. My mark, that's what I call the robot suit. Okay, I'm done. Hello everybody. I am Power Loader. But please feel free to just call me Sensei. And welcome to the first day of the next 3 years of your life. Chapter 8. Toast the bread. A few days since last chapter we see Izuku sleeping in his workshop. He's been working non-stop to finish the Mark II, so much so that he hasn't left the school for anything. When the clock hit 6, his alarm blasted out of his speakers. Izuku's phone, you can't see they're faking, they'll never be naked, just fill your drink with tonic gin, this is the American dream. So Izuku took a deep breath and sat up straight, rubbing the tiredness out of his eyes. He yawned deeply and stretched while he yawned, until he heard something pop. Izuku's phone, sip the gossip, drink, till you choke, sip the gossip, burn down your throat, you're not iconic, you are just like them all, don't act like you don't know, so sip the gossip. Izuku grabbed his phone and turned off the alarm. He opened the mini fridge and took out a bottle of cold water, drinking it all in a single chuck. He got up and went to the bathroom to start his day. He looked himself in the mirror. Now that he was alone, he wasn't smiling, he moved his head side to side. To see all the smile lines his face has. He splashed water on his face and forced a smile on his face, ignoring the slight pain of his muscles wanting a break. Izuku would give them none. Izuku, okay. Showtime, Izuku said to himself as he brushed his teeth, took a quick cold shower to really wake up, a typical morning routine. Once he was done with that, he grabbed his earphones and cell, walked outside of his workshop, and started running around the school, to get some cardio in. Meanwhile with Inko, we see Inko taking her usual path home from the grocery store, a slight detour that allowed her to walk through the pleasant greenery of a park instead of along the smoggy roads of the street. It's not like she had to rush. Izuku would be gone wherever he always goes, and even if he was home, he wouldn't talk to her. There were leftovers in the fridge, so she didn't even have to cook dinner tonight. On her way through the park, she was accustomed to hearing the laughter and shouting of kids, along with the occasional barking of dogs being walked by their owners, but she was unprepared for a pitiful little meow from one of the bushes beside her. Inko paused, glancing around for the source. She crouched down, peering at the underbrush. Inko, hello. Inko spoke softly. Another meow. With some squinting and tilting her head, she eventually caught sight of a pair of bright, round eyes. She was no expert on animals, but Mitsuki's family had a cat that she used to play with sometimes, so she was familiar with general feline behavior. With those memories in mind, she gently reached out and clicked her tongue. Inko, here, kitty kitty. Inko said. The cat seemed hesitant, but eventually she felt the press of a nose against her hand, and then another press as the cat rubbed its head against her. She cooed at the friendliness. Inko, well, aren't you a sweetheart? Inko eventually was able to lead the cat out of the bush, revealing an orange tabby. Despite its lack of a collar, it was clean and round enough to seem well-fed, suggesting it was a domesticated pet. Supporting that theory, when Inko picked it up, it immediately crawled up and curled up on her chest, right where her cleavage would be if she were wearing anything more revealing than her blouse and cardigan. Very friendly then, and happy to curl up with a human. Inko, why was it out here alone? Little baby. Inko asked the cat, as if it could respond back. She looked around the park, hoping for a human to pop out of the bushes as well and reveal they were taking their cat on a casual off-leash walk, as unlikely as that was. Unfortunately, the sun was setting and there was almost no one around. Still, Inko did her due diligence and asked the few people she could find whether it was theirs. None of them claimed the cat, though, who was now purring from her perch over Inko's chest and shoulder. Inko wasn't trying to be a catnapper, but she also didn't want to abandon the poor creature. If it really was domesticated, then it might not do well on the streets overnight. When the cat started kneading its paws against her cardigan, her mind was made up. Someone was probably missing a cat this adorable and loving, but Inko would not rely on chance. She'd take it home tonight, then put up some cat found posters in the morning wherever she could. Time to take another little detour to the pet shop for some food. Inko, maybe with you I won't feel so lonely. Back to Izuku. He finished his cardio at 7 in the morning, and he was back in his workshop. He opened the door to see Nizu in there looking at Mark Orwell, the beginning of Mark II. Izuku built the model of it out of styrofoam, to get a visualization of the machine. Izuku, hello Nizu. Lovely morning, isn't it? Nizu, I would say so. Tell me about this model, boy, Nizu asked, curious, looking around the styrofoam model. Izuku dried himself a little of the sweat and walked next to Nizu. Izuku, this Nizu, is my Mark II design. It won't have super strength. But what it will have is super flight. Nizu, HM. And you believe you can build this? Nizu asked, finally looking at Izuku. Izuku just nodded without a shred of doubt in his brain. Izuku, yes. I've already got the blueprints finished, now it's just a matter of building it. Don't suppose I'm allowed here in the weekends? Nizu, you are. So is every other student of the support course, so you'll see other people like you building things. Nizu explained, and that worked for Izuku, which just meant that he's got less reason to go back home. Which reminded him, he took out his phone and texted his mother, I'm safe at school. Izuku, well, I'll see other people, but nobody like me. There is no one who has my genius, my ambition, my flexibility and morality. Nizu, I would control that ego, young man, it could get you into trouble. Nizu warned, but Izuku just chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. Izuku, you call it ego, sir. I call it confidence in myself, Nizu, HM. And what's fueling this machine? Nizu asked. Izuku pointed to a specific part of the blueprints where Nizu saw his next idea for fuel. Izuku, well, I was able to improve the battery life, and the source of it. So it'll be solar powered, seeing as that's one of the most available options there is. So in theory, I should be able to last longer, Nizu. In theory, Nizu corrected, dragging Izuku back to earth, but much to the rat's amusement, Izuku's smile didn't falter, just became smaller. Izuku, yes. I'll still need to test it out, but I'm not at that stage yet. I've just finished the written design. Now it's just a matter of building it and testing the puppy out. Nizu, I believe I can help you with that. Depending on how long it'll take you to finish it, I might know of a place that you can take this suit to test it out, Nizu said in thought, that piqued Izuku's interest, as he looked at Nizu with the excitement of a little kid on Christmas, clear in his eyes. Izuku, all help would be appreciated, sir. What's the place? Nizu, the unforeseen simulation joint, or USJ for short. Later we see PL finishing his cup of coffee, while his students were busy with their first project. And safe to say, Izuku wasn't enjoying it. Izuku, this is an insult to my genius. This is beneath me, Izuku muttered to himself, since in an ironic twist, his fake first invention was the thing he was fixing right now. All the students' first test was to fix broken old borderline junk devices, and make them work, with minimum materials. Done. Can I work on my babies now? PL, for the 5th time. No. If you're finished, go and help some of your classmates, PL said with a frustrated sigh. It's been like this since the semester started. All May wanted to do was build her babies. Why should I, PL? Because it's a nice thing to do, PL said, trying to appeal to May's sense of humanity to do the right thing, and so she stops bothering him. May just gives him a blank stare. PL, because it could be the spark you need to make friends. PL said, remembering the file on May, and how he had to encourage her to make friends. But the blank face May was giving her told him otherwise. PL, how about because I said so? PL said with a sigh. At that May smiled brightly and nodded, not realizing that she was causing unnecessary stress to PL. May, okay. Good enough for me. PL, okay, who needs help with their machine? Izuku. PL said. Izuku stopped working and looked at PL with disgust, as if he said the most insulting thing in the world. That's when PL realized that he had 2 problem children, as Aizawa calls them, in his class. Izuku, I'm gonna pretend you didn't just say that. Since I've been done for about 5 minutes. Now I'm just tinkering out of boredom, and because I didn't want to help the others. May, oh. That. I prefer doing that. May said, going back to her machine and started to tinker with it, to give it an upgrade. She didn't notice the hateful stares from the rest of the class. Izuku did. But he didn't care, all of them were beneath him, in Izuku's opinion. PL, May, no. You already agreed to help. Izuku, I mean, if they take this long to fix something as easy as a toaster, or a coffee maker. Should they really belong here? Izuku said with a raised eyebrow. Now the hate was more directed at Izuku himself. But Izuku just kept smiling. May nodded, and looked at PL confused. May, I agree. I thought UA was supposed to be for the best of the best. PL, you guys are gonna be the death of me, and it hasn't even been a month. PL said with a frustrated sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. Izuku shrugged and went back to tinkering on his toaster. Izuku, I mean. Both of us would stay quiet. If you just let us work on our how do you call them? May, babies. May said brightly. Izuku nodded and looked at PL with a smug smirk, just watching his teacher slink down his chair. Izuku, that's adorable. Babies, if you would let us work on our babies. We would stay quiet. PL, still no. PL said, he wasn't about to break the rules just because 2 students were annoying. Like really annoying. All of them looked at Izuku's table, since he somehow managed to make a tiny robot out of the toaster. He even had an eye toaster. What is my purpose? Izuku, you toast bread. Here, toast this for me. Izuku said, giving the robot a slice of toast. The robot took it and toasted it, giving it back to Izuku, who started eating it. Toaster, what is my purpose? Izuku, you toast bread. Izuku said, eating the bread. The toaster looked at his hands, and then looked down. Dejected. Toaster, oh my god. Izuku, yup, and since the bread is already toasted, you have no more purpose. So Izuku said with a shrug, and they all saw the toaster walk to the window and just jump. They all ran to the window, looked down, and saw the robot toaster broken into pieces. They turned their head to see the father of the toaster robot, Izuku, holding his sides laughing at what the robot did. Jesus, that was dark. Izuku, you can blame yourself for that. I was bored. And I find dark humor amusing. And before you all start complaining that I crossed a line. Humor isn't humor unless it offends somebody. Prove me wrong. Izuku said with a smirk, as he finished his bread, and put his head down on the table. He got around 30 seconds of his nap, before the door opened revealing Principal Nizu. Hello Higuri, did Izuku finish his assignment? Since if he did, I would like to borrow him. Borrow him. You can take him, for all I care. Said, still looking out the window, seeing parts of the robot toaster, flinching as it slowly loses power. Izuku got up and followed Nizu, as they both walked to his office. Izuku, so, Principal Nizu. For what reason are you taking me to your office? Nizu, well, I saw that you finished your assignment in class. Very funny by the way, I also enjoy dark humor. Nizu said with a small chuckle that Izuku joined in. Those who were walking past them were freaked out about it. Izuku, glad to know that. Nizu, yes, now my boy. Since you finish with that, I'm taking you with me, so you can do the other pieces of work that I have for you. As my personal student. Nizu said, and at this Izuku perked up, since it was a chance to prove himself and to Nizu, but mostly himself, that he belongs in UA.